What is up, watch friends? Welcome to another episode of Talking Timepieces with Tony. I'm Tony. This is my Rolex pen, and this is my Rolex Submariner 124060. Since we are going to be talking about the evolution of the Submariner, figure it'd be best to wear my Submariner, right? So let's roll the intro and we'll talk about it.
You're watching Timepieces with Tony. Talking Timepieces with Tony. You're watching Talking Timepieces with Tony. Yeah.
All right, so I'm not going to get as in-depth as I possibly could with this because there's just a lot to know, and I don't remember all the reference numbers. So I did take some notes just to, I want to just kind of give a brief rundown. The watch in itself has not changed all that much since its inception. So, and that's a cool thing, that's where the heritage comes in, and that's what people love about the Submariner. It was brought up by one of my viewers, which I did this comparison anyway. Once you see a Porsche 911 through all the iterations of that vehicle up until today's model, from going back to the 60s, you know that it's a Porsche 911. So there's not a whole lot, but it's a very interesting journey. So the first Rolex Submariner was introduced in 1953, or it was when it was, first the inception. And it's arguably the first dive watch. However, Blancpain kind of came to the table just a few. They beat Rolex by just a few months. So who came up with it first? Well, ultimately, it's the company that got it out into the market first. It's kind of like the tourbillon. It was invented by Abraham Louis Breguet, but actual fact, it was the concept of it and the initial sketches and drawings and everything came up from Arnold, from Arnold Watch Company. His first, that's his last name. I can't, Jack Arnold, Jim Arnold. Anyway, and then Abraham Louis Breguet took that and ran with it. So he's really credited for coming up with the first tourbillon, but we're not here to talk about tourbillons. We are here to talk about the Submariner. So the first Submariner was introduced to Baselworld in 1954. That was a reference 6204. And that watch was 100 meters water resistance. And they did various tests on it by putting it down over 120 meters with the crown unscrewed, and left it down there for quite some time, pulled it back up, and there was no sign of water leakage intrusion into the watch, which is pretty cool. You'll also notice that the hands on the 6204 are not the Mercedes style hands. They were sword style hands. That changed the next reference year, which basically, even though the 6204 debuted at Basel in 1954 was also the inception of the 6205, which had a slightly thicker case and a larger crown. Again, that watch was 100 meters water resistance. And of course, that's also when they put the Mercedes style hands on the watch. Excuse me. 1955 through 56, they had the 6200, which was a thicker case, 8mm crown, and that watch is now 200 meters. Now they got a 200-meter dive watch or something like that. In those days, it's pretty good. The watch aesthetically, again, just has looked the same throughout the years. If you look at the Omega Seamaster, you can't compare. I did a comparison with those two watches, and the Omega fans, whatever would make me get turned off by Omega watches are the psychotic fans that just sit there and go, Rolex is a piece of shit and Omega's this. Well, to each their own. Again, I've said this before, I own both of them and I love them both for different reasons. But I can tell you the bezel on a SMP 300 is about as useful as a milk bucket under a bull. It doesn't work. It's fucking shit. All right. So I don't know why I'm targeting that, but everything about the Rolex, from the bezel, the aesthetics of the watch, and the quality is just superior. And it's remained as it is, with various little altercations throughout the years, right? So In 1955 through 59, the 6536 came out, which had a thinner case and a smaller crown. These watches, all the way up to where I'm talking to right now, are all 37 millimeters. And then 57 through 1960, they had the 6536-1, which was the same as the 6536. The only difference is that that watch was now chronometer rated. Okay. Before that, they weren't chronometer rated or certified. Their chronometer rated was when they first came out in the 1957 through 60. Also, from the inception of the Submariner, these watches were also in-house calibers. Rolex came out the bat right from the start with in-house calibers on the Submariner. Again, 56 through 59, 59. Again, how's my diction, my enunciation of my words? Was the first watch that Sean Connery wore in Doctor No, and that was again the 6538, 37 millimeter. 5510, 1958, same as the 6538, was pretty much the same. They used a different caliber, which was a 1530 caliber. Then 5508, 1958 to 1962 replaced the 6536, but that was the first superlative chronometer. So you have Rolex, and that's still a 37 millimeter case. Now, what's the difference between a chronometer and a superlative chronometer? In Switzerland, we have COSC. We have COSC. I am not in Switzerland, so we do not apply to this, but Switzerland does. And those movements get put through a series of tests, just like Omega does. But Omega also has their meta testing, which is above and beyond what COSC certification is. If that watch is COSC certification, it has to run, meaning it will run between a certain amount of seconds per day plus 5 minus so many seconds a day with the superlative. And those watches are tested at COSC, just the movements tested, all right, not encased in the watch, right? So the superlative chronometer, what Rolex do is they have, now that the movement's been tested, then the movement gets put into the watch, and then they do additional testing, different angles. Remember I spoke about a tourbillon earlier? That's all based on gravity, how that watch keeps time. If you're wearing it straight like this all the time, it's going to tell a different, it's not going to be as accurate as if you're wearing it like this all the time, or if like this all the time. It's all based on gravity. Tourbillons are useless in today's modern watches, but they're a really cool, addition. As I want to say, it's a complication, but it's not. It's complication would be a date complication, a chronograph, day calendar, but it's actually what helps the movement within gravity, basically how that watch is being worn. You don't need it in today's watch, but they are cool. So anyway, with the superlative chronometer, Rolex now are at +2, -2 seconds a day based off of their additional testing, which is awesome because my Rolexes, all the ones I've had in my entire life, have just been awesome with time, So, where am I at? We got sort of now the years of production. 1959 through 1998 is when they switched to the 40 millimeter case. So 59 through 98 was the caliber. Was the 5512. Different calibers they used were the 1530, 1560, and 1570 calibers throughout those years. 5513 was probably my favorite vintage year. That reminds me more of the Tudor Black Bay 58, how the Black Bay 58, that's why when I bought my Black Bay 58, I really loved it because it was like having a new old school Rolex. It was like having an old 5513 sub, except you've got a modern watch that you don't have to baby it and be scared if whatever happens to it. This is the cool thing about the Black Bay 58. So 1962 through 89 is 5513. It's a 40 millimeter case. Excuse me. Then 1990 through 98, you had the 14060. A lot of you probably still have that watch. and that was a caliber 3030. All right, now keep in mind, if you go to say 1983, Tiffany and Company had a collaboration with Rolex, so you could get an actual Tiffany stamped Rolex Submariner dial from 1983. Pretty sick watch if you can find it, but you're looking at probably, I'll find one and put it up if I can find one, but I wouldn't say any less than 50 grand, maybe about 50 grand if you can find one. So those are really grail of Submariners, if you will. So the 114060 is the most recent iteration. Apart from this one I'm wearing is the most recent variation of the watch. 2012 to 2020 is the 114060 with the 3130 caliber. Keep in mind, this is the same caliber that they put in their OP. It's just a solid workhorse of a movement. Current reference, which I'm wearing right now, is the 124060 with the 3230 caliber. Keeps amazing time. It's the same movement that I have in my OP, and I love both watches. So having said that, this is kind of what I wanted to do as far as my little video. Let me tone it down. Sorry, on the evolution of the Rolex Submariner. So I always appreciate you guys watching, liking, and subscribing. If you like my content, like and subscribe. If you don't like my content, then don't. If you're a total Omega fan and want to bash me on this video, then I don't understand why you're watching my video if you're just an Omega fan. I'm just assuming that you just are jealous because you really want a Rolex. And I'm just kidding, but life's too short. Let's have fun with all this, all right? So having said that, you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Talk to you later.